Captain Zorvak stood on the bridge of the Valkyran warship, Claw of Dominance, his scaled hands clasped behind his back as he gazed at the stars. His yellow eyes narrowed as he considered his place in the universe. The Valkyrans were special. Everyone in the Galactic Coalition knew this. They were the only species known to have evolved on a death world, a planet so harsh that most intelligent life would never survive long enough to develop technology. The bridge hummed with activity as his crew worked at their stations. First, Officer Krelta approached, her tail swishing slightly as she walked. "Captain, all systems are functioning at optimal capacity. We will reach Coalition Outpost 7 in approximately 12 cycles," she reported. Zorvak nodded. "Excellent work, First Officer." He took pride in his ship and crew. The Valkyrans were the military elite of the Coalition. Their natural strength and endurance, born from evolving on a planet with 1.3 times standard gravity and a toxic atmosphere, made them perfect warriors and explorers. Other species respected and feared them for this. "Captain, we're picking up an unusual signal," the communications officer called out. "It appears to be a distress call, but the language pattern doesn't match anything in our database." Zorvak frowned. This sector was largely unexplored. "Put it on the main display, let's hear it." Static filled the bridge, followed by a voice, speaking words no one understood. The voice sounded calm despite the obvious distress call. "Location?" Zorvak asked. "Approximately 2 light hours from our current position, sir. In uncharted space." The captain considered his options. Coalition protocol required responding to all distress signals, but this could be a trap. On the other hand, it could be a new species to bring into the Coalition, under Valkyran guidance, of course. "Change course to intercept. Maximum speed," he ordered. As they approached the coordinates, sensors detected debris scattered across a wide area. In the middle floated a ship unlike any they had seen before. Its design was utilitarian rather than elegant like most Coalition vessels. "Life signs?" Zorvak asked. The science officer looked confused. "Yes, Captain, but the readings are strange. According to our sensors, the ship has multiple hull breaches. Environmental systems are functioning at minimum capacity. Temperature is fluctuating wildly. By all accounts, no one should be alive on that vessel." This caught Zorvak's attention. "Explain." "The conditions inside would kill most known species within minutes. Yet I'm detecting at least 5 life forms moving around inside." First Officer Krelta stepped forward. "Perhaps their environmental suits are more advanced than ours?" "No," the science officer replied. "The readings suggest they are not wearing full environmental protection." Zorvak's curiosity was piqued. "Bring us alongside. Prepare a boarding party. I want to see these creatures myself." As they closed in, they could see the name painted on the side of the damaged vessel. Horizon. The design was simple but sturdy. The boarding party, led by Zorvak himself, wore their full environmental suits as they cut through the airlock. The air that rushed out was thin and filled with smoke. "How could anything survive in this?" Krelta whispered. They moved through dark corridors. Emergency lights cast red shadows on the walls. The temperature was freezing in some sections and scorching in others. Exposed wires sparked overhead. The Valkyrans were tough, but even they felt uncomfortable in these conditions. They turned a corner and stopped. A being stood before them. It stood upright on 2 legs and had no scales, tail, or visible natural defenses. Its skin was soft-looking and partly covered in blue fabric. Red liquid, blood, had dried on its face from a cut above one eye. "Welcome aboard the Horizon," the creature said in accented but understandable Coalition standard language. "I'm Lieutenant Commander Frank Miller, acting captain." He extended a hand toward them, seemingly untroubled by the toxic fumes or the fact that the temperature in this corridor was cold enough to kill most species. Zorvak didn't take the offered hand, too shocked by what he was seeing. This soft-looking creature should be dead or at least severely distressed. Instead, it was functional, alert, and apparently trying to be diplomatic. "I am Captain Zorvak of the Galactic Coalition vessel Claw of Dominance. We received your distress signal." Frank Miller nodded. "Appreciate the quick response. We had an engine malfunction that caused several cascading failures. We've got 5 crew members, all alive, though our engineer has some burns, and our science officer broke her arm. Zorvac struggled to hide his astonishment. Burns? Broken bones? And they were still functioning? Your ship is not safe, Krelta stated. You must evacuate immediately. We were hoping you'd say that, Frank replied with what appeared to be a facial expression of relief. Let me gather my crew and some essential supplies. As they waited, Zorvac whispered to his science officer, Scan them thoroughly when they board our ship. I want to know everything about these creatures. Soon, 4 more of the strange beings joined them. One limped slightly, leaning on another for support. Another had visible burn marks on their arms, but carried several containers without apparent difficulty. This is my crew, Frank said. Chief Engineer Olivia Martinez, Security Officer Kyle Johnson, Science Officer Patricia White, and Medical Officer Nathan Brown. The one called Olivia spoke up. I managed to stabilize the reactor before you arrived. It won't explode, but it won't work again either. You touched a damaged reactor? The Valkaran science officer asked in disbelief. Someone had to, she replied simply, as if discussing ordinary work. They escorted the humans back to their ship. Once aboard the Claw of Dominance, the creatures looked around with obvious interest rather than fear or awe. In the decontamination chamber, Zorvac observed them removing pieces of their minimal protective clothing. They wore simple uniforms, underneath. No exoskeletons, no obvious augmentations, just seemingly fragile bodies that had somehow survived conditions that would challenge even Valkarans. Your species, what do you call yourselves? Zorvac finally asked. We're humans, Frank replied. From Earth. And this Earth? What kind of planet is it? The 5 humans exchanged glances. Pretty average, I guess, Kyle said with a shrug. Though we have lots of different environments, deserts, oceans, mountains, forests, the ship's doctor, Nathan, added, our atmosphere is nitrogen-oxygen based, gravity about 9.8 meters per second squared. Zorvac's eyes widened slightly at E. The gravity measurement. That was higher than Valkara. And how did you survive on your damaged ship? The conditions were lethal. Patricia smiled. Humans are adaptable. We can handle a wide range of temperatures and atmospheric conditions for short periods. Not comfortable, but survivable. As the decontamination cycle completed, Olivia pulled something from a pocket. She opened a container and took out dark beans. She popped one into her mouth and chewed. The Valkarans watched in horror as their sensors indicated the substance contained multiple compounds toxic to their biology. What are you doing? Krelta asked in alarm. Sorry, Olivia said. Coffee beans. Helps me stay alert. Want one? In that moment, Captain Zorvac realized that perhaps the Valkarans were not as unique as they had always believed. These humans were something entirely unexpected, and if they could survive such conditions with their soft bodies and without natural armor, what else were they capable of? I believe we have much to learn about each other, Zorvac said slowly. Welcome aboard the Claw of Dominance. You are now under the protection of the Valkaran Empire. Frank nodded politely, but there was something in his eyes, not fear or gratitude, but a quiet confidence that seemed strangely out of place for a rescued species. We look forward to establishing diplomatic relations, he said, and learning about your coalition. As the humans were led away to the medical bay, Zorvac turned to his first officer. Contact Coalition Command. Tell them we've made first contact with a new species, one that may challenge everything we know about galactic classification. For the first time in his career, Captain Zorvac felt a strange sensation. It took him a moment to recognize it as uncertainty. Dr. Selnar, the chief xenobiologist of the Claw of Dominance, had never been so excited in her entire career. The 5 humans sat in her medical bay, allowing her to run scans while they chatted among themselves, as if this was a routine checkup rather than first contact with an alien species. Please hold still, she told Patricia White, who had a fractured arm. The human complied with a small smile. Is this your first time treating a human? Patricia asked. You are the first humans any Valkaran has ever encountered, Dr. Selnar replied, carefully applying a bone-setting device to the injury. Your physiology is Unusual. Patricia laughed. I could say the same about yours. Those scales must be handy. The doctor's tail twitched in surprise at the casual tone. Most species were intimidated by Valkarans. On the other side of the medical bay, Nathan Brown was looking at displays showing Valkaran biological data with obvious professional interest. As a human medical officer, he seemed fascinated by their alien physiology. Your hemoglobin equivalent is remarkable, Nathan said. Much more efficient oxygen carriers than ours. Dr. Selnar glanced up. You can read our medical displays? Patricia helped me decode the symbols earlier. We're quick studies, Nathan replied, his focus still on the screens. Your adaptation to your toxic atmosphere is particularly interesting. Our planets might have some environmental similarities. The doctor finished treating Patricia's arm and moved to examine Olivia Martinez's burns. The engineer had been working with superheated plasma conduits with minimal protection, yet her injuries were surprisingly mild. These should have been third-degree burns based on the temperature you reported, Dr. Selnar said. Olivia shrugged. I've had worse in engineering school. This is nothing some ointment won't fix. Captain Zorvak entered the medical bay with First Officer Krelta. The human stood up straighter but didn't seem intimidated by the Valkaran captain's presence. Dr. Selnar, report on our guests, Zorvak commanded. The doctor gestured to her findings displayed on the main screen. Captain, these humans are remarkable specimens. Their bone density is comparable to ours despite having evolved on a planet with slightly lower gravity than Valkara. Their muscle fiber structure is incredibly efficient. Their respiratory system can filter out moderate toxins, and they can temporarily function in oxygen levels that would cause most species to lose consciousness. What about their lack of natural defenses? Krelta asked. No claws, minimal teeth, soft skin. They compensate with intelligence and tool use, Dr. Selnar replied. And their endurance is extraordinary. They don't have our burst strength, but they can maintain physical activity for much longer periods. Their bodies are built for persistence rather than power. Frank Miller had been listening quietly. Captain Zorvak, we appreciate your hospitality and medical assistance. When might we discuss arrangements for returning to Coalition space? We'd like to establish official contact with your government. The captain studied the human leader. We are en route to Outpost 7. We will arrive in approximately 10 cycles. From there, you can communicate with your people and meet with Coalition representatives. Excellent, Frank replied. We look forward to establishing diplomatic relations. Later, the humans were given guest quarters and invited to dine with the officers. The mess hall fell silent as they entered. The Valkaran crew had never seen creatures like them before. Kyle Johnson, the security officer, seemed to notice the tension. He smiled and nodded to the crew members, his relaxed body language helping to ease the atmosphere. Food proved to be another surprise. The humans examined the Valkaran rations with interest. These contain heavy metals that would be toxic to most species, Dr. Selnar explained. I've prepared alternative provisions that should be safe for your consumption. The Roy. Humans thanked her, but then shocked everyone when Olivia pulled out her bag of coffee beans again and a small device. Anyone mind if I brew some coffee? She asked. It's a traditional human beverage. The same substance you were consuming earlier? Dr. Selnar asked with concern. Our scans indicated it contains alkaloids that are toxic to most life forms. Caffeine, Nathan explained with a smile. Mild stimulant for humans. Perfectly safe in moderate amounts. The Valkarans watched in fascination as Olivia used hot water to brew a dark liquid. The aroma spread through the mess hall, causing several crew members to step back from what their biology identified as a danger sign. The humans sipped their coffee with obvious pleasure. Frank noticed the Valkaran's reaction and smiled. One thing you'll learn about humans, we often enjoy things that should, by all rights, kill us. During the meal, a minor ship malfunction occurred. A support beam came loose in the cargo bay. 2 Valkaran crew members struggled to lift it back into place. Kyle stood up. Need a hand? Without waiting for an answer, he walked over and helped. The Valkarans pushed the heavy beam up. Working together, they secured it. The Valkaran crew members stared at Kyle with new respect. For a soft-skinned creature with no natural armor, his strength was impressive. Later, in his private quarters, Captain Zorvak reviewed Dr. Selnar's findings with First Officer Krelta. Their planet, Earth, has 1.1 times Valkara's gravity according to their reports, Krelta said, and their atmospheric oxygen content is significantly higher than ours, which explains their endurance, Zorvak mused. High oxygen environments typically produce larger life forms. There's more, Captain. Based on their biological markers and the substances they casually consume, Earth must have thousands of toxic plants and dangerous environmental factors, yet they evolved without any natural armor. Instead, they adapted through cellular regeneration and poison resistance. Zorvak's scales shifted in the Valkyran equivalent of a frown. Are you suggesting their planet might be a death world? Yes, Krelta finished. Possibly Category 10 or higher. This was unprecedented. For generations, Valkyrans had been the only known species to evolve on a death world. Their special status in the coalition, their military authority, their political power, all stemmed from this unique heritage. The next day, the humans suggested a cultural exchange to pass the time during their journey to Outpost 7. They offered to demonstrate human recreational activities in the ship's training area. The Valkyran crew gathered to watch as the humans engaged in what they called friendly competition. Despite their injuries, they moved with surprising grace and power. Frank and Kyle demonstrated wrestling techniques, while Patricia showed remarkable flexibility in what she called yoga. Olivia and Nathan engaged in a rapid game involving catching and throwing a small object. Several brave Valkyran crew members joined in. They were shocked when the seemingly weaker humans could match them in endurance if not in raw strength. On Earth, we have a saying, Frank told Captain Zorvak as they watched the others. It's not the size of the dog in the fight, it's the size of the fight in the dog. Zorvak didn't understand the reference, but he understood the meaning. These humans had an inner strength that defied their physical appearance. For the first time in his life, the proud Valkyran captain wondered if his species' place in the galaxy might be about to change forever. The Claw of Dominance docked at Outpost 7 with a gentle thud. The massive space station served as a hub for 12 different species that made up the Galactic Coalition. Normally, Captain Zorvak felt a sense of pride when arriving at Coalition facilities. Today he felt uneasy. The humans would change everything. Prepare for disembarkation, he ordered. First Officer Krelta, escort our human guests to the diplomatic reception area. Frank Miller and his crew had donned fresh uniforms provided by the ship's fabricators. They stood tall despite being surrounded by aliens twice their size. Remember, Frank told his team quietly, we represent all of humanity now. First impressions matter. They walked through the airlock and onto the station. The reception area buzzed with activity as representatives from various coalition species moved about their business. All activity stopped when the humans entered. No one had ever seen their kind before. Coalition Counselor Venta approached, his long, slender body towering over even the Valkyrans. His species, the Alivari, were known for their diplomatic skills and calm temperament. Captain Zorvak, the counselor greeted, we received your message about first contact. These are the creatures you mentioned? There was a note of disbelief in his voice as he looked down at the humans. Yes, Counselor. May I present Lieutenant Commander Frank Miller and his crew from the planet Earth? Zorvak replied formally. Frank stepped forward and bowed slightly. On behalf of humanity, I extend greetings to the Galactic Coalition. We look forward to peaceful relations between our worlds. Counselor Venta seemed surprised by the humans' perfect coalition standard language. Welcome to Outpost 7, humans. We have arranged a meeting with the Coalition Diplomatic Committee to discuss your discovery and potential relations with your species. As they walked through the station, the humans drew stares from every alien they passed. Some looked curious, others skeptical. The Valkyrans had been considered unique for so long that many species found it hard to believe these small, soft-skinned creatures could possibly be from a death world. In the main conference room, representatives from the 12 coalition species gathered around a large table. Dr. Selnar presented her findings on human physiology. Based on our analysis, she concluded, the human homeworld exhibits characteristics consistent with a high-category Deathworld classification. Their physical adaptations, while different from Valkyran evolution, demonstrate remarkable survivability. Murmurs spread through the room. A representative of the Goravan species, bulky creatures with thick fur, spoke up. This is absurd. Look at them. No natural defenses, no protective hide. How could such creatures evolve on a harsh world? The Valkyrans must be mistaken. Patricia White stepped forward. With respect, our lack of natural armor led us to develop different advantages. Humans have exceptional stamina, efficient heat regulation through sweating, and rapid healing abilities. Our brains developed advanced problem-solving skills precisely because we couldn't rely on physical prowess alone. Impressive words, said another counselor. But we require proof, not claims. What kind of proof would satisfy the council? Frank asked. Before anyone could answer, alarms blared throughout the station. Red emergency lights flashed, and a computerized voice announced, "Warning. Critical system failure detected. Station-wide emergency protocols activated." The conference room door slid open and a security officer rushed in. "Counselors, someone has sabotaged the primary reactor cooling system. We're facing a cascade failure that could lead to radiation leakage throughout the station. We need to evacuate immediately." Panic erupted among the coalition representatives. The station's computer announced, "Warning. Radiation containment failing. Levels rising in sectors 4 through 7. Life support systems compromised." "The evacuation pods won't be enough for everyone," Krelta said grimly. Frank turned to his crew. "Olivia, what do you think?" The human engineer had already pulled up a station schematic on a nearby display. "The design is different from ours, but the principles are similar. If we can reach the main engineering section, I might be able to reroute the cooling systems. The radiation levels are already too high," a Goravan technician protested. "Even Valkyrans couldn't survive exposure long enough to make repairs." Kyle stepped forward. "Humans have decent radiation resistance for short periods. We can handle it." Captain Zorvak made a quick decision. "I will accompany the humans. First Officer Krelta, begin evacuation procedures for the most vulnerable species." As panic spread throughout the station, Frank, Olivia, Kyle, and Captain Zorvak made their way to engineering. The corridors were already emptying as aliens rushed to the evacuation pods. When they reached engineering, warning signs flashed everywhere. The radiation levels were rising rapidly. "This was deliberate," Zorvak growled, examining the damage. "Someone wanted to cause maximum casualties." Olivia was already working at a control panel. "The primary cooling pumps are offline, and the backups have been physically damaged. We need to create a bypass." The station's computer announced, "Warning. Radiation levels exceeding safe limits for all known species. Complete evacuation recommended." Olivia looked up at the others. "I need time to work. The radiation won't kill us immediately, but prolonged exposure will be dangerous." "Do what you must," Zorvak said. Even his tough Valkyran body was beginning to feel the effects of the radiation. The humans showed discomfort but continued to function. Kyle helped Olivia remove panels and access the cooling system's hardware, while Frank coordinated with station security through the communication system. The humans moved with purpose despite the growing danger. In another part of the station, Patricia and Nathan had stayed behind to help injured aliens reach the evacuation pods. Their medical training proved valuable as they treated radiation symptoms and helped calm the panicked evacuees. Back in engineering, Olivia had created a makeshift bypass using parts from less critical systems. This should work temporarily, but we need to restart the main coolant pumps. The restart procedure required manually operating valves near the reactor core, where radiation levels were highest. "I'll do it," Kyle volunteered. "No," Zorvak said. "This is my station, my responsibility." "With respect, Captain," Frank interjected, "humans can handle short-term radiation exposure better than most species. Kyle and I will go together. 2 are faster than 1. Before Zorvak could protest further, The two humans had donned minimal protection gear and headed toward the reactor core. In the control room, Olivia monitored their progress through the security cameras. They're at the first valve sequence now. Zorvak watched in amazement as the humans worked efficiently despite the lethal environment. His own scales were beginning to show signs of radiation damage, yet the soft-skinned humans kept going. Meanwhile, in the evacuation area, Coalition counselors watched in disbelief as Patricia and Nathan continued helping others despite their own safety being at risk. Why would they do this for species they've just met? Counselor Venta asked quietly. In engineering, Frank and Kyle completed the valve sequence and returned, their skin reddened from radiation, but their movements still steady. Coolant flow restored, Olivia reported. Radiation levels are dropping. The DEM station's computer announced, emergency contained, radiation levels decreasing, life support systems stabilizing. As the immediate danger passed, Zorvak looked at the humans with new respect. You risked your lives for a station full of aliens you just met. Frank shrugged, wincing slightly from the radiation burns. That's what humans do. We help where we can. Word of the humans' actions spread quickly through the station. By the time they returned to the conference room, the entire Coalition Diplomatic Committee was waiting for them. Counselor Venta stepped forward. We no longer require further proof of your capabilities. Your actions today have demonstrated, more than any test could, the Galactic Coalition formally recognizes humanity as a Deathworld species. The implications hung in the air. For centuries, the Valkarans had been the only recognized Deathworld species, giving them special status and authority. Now they would share that distinction with humans. Captain Zorvak found he didn't mind as much as he would have expected. Perhaps there was room in the galaxy for two kinds of Deathworlders after all. 2 weeks after the station incident, Frank Miller stood before the full Galactic Coalition Council. The Grand Chamber was filled with representatives from all 12 member species. Screens displayed the proceedings to billions of beings across Coalition space. This was the most significant diplomatic event in generations. Frank wore a formal Earth uniform, designed to look professional while revealing the lack of natural armor that had so surprised the aliens. Beside him stood his crew, still showing faint signs of radiation exposure but otherwise recovered. Captain Zorvak and Dr. Selnar represented the Valkarans. Lieutenant Commander Miller, the head counselor, began. You have been invited here to formally present your species to the Coalition. We are particularly interested in learning more about your homeworld. Frank nodded respectfully. Thank you, Counselor. Earth is the third planet in our solar system, orbiting a yellow dwarf star we call the Sun. It has one natural satellite, the Moon. Earth's surface is approximately 71% water, with diverse land masses featuring mountains, deserts, forests, and plains. Dr. Selnar activated a holographic display showing comparative planetary data. Based on our analysis and information provided by the humans, we have classified Earth as a Category 12 Death World. Gasps echoed through the chamber. Valkara was a Category 10. This classification is based on multiple factors, Dr. Selnar continued. Earth's gravity is 1.1 times that of Valkara. Its oxygen content is higher, enabling more active metabolisms and larger predators. The planet features extreme climate variations, from Arctic regions at 50 degrees Celsius to deserts exceeding 50 degrees Celsius. Frank stepped forward. If I may elaborate on what makes Earth challenging, our planet has over 40,000 species of plants, many producing toxins that would be deadly to most life forms. We have millions of venomous insects and animals. Our oceans contain creatures ranging from microscopic killers to massive predators. Patricia activated another display showing Earth's geological history. Our planet has experienced 5 major extinction events, each wiping out up to 95% of all species. Humans evolved during a relatively stable period, but our ancestors survived ice ages, massive volcanic eruptions, and meteor impacts. The council members looked stunned. A Goravan representative spoke up. How did your species survive without genetic engineering or technological assistance? We adapted, Frank replied simply. Humans evolved to be persistence hunters. We can't run as fast as many predators, but we can run longer. Our bodies efficiently regulate temperature through sweating. We can recover from injuries that would be fatal to many species. Our digestive systems can process a wide variety of foods and neutralize many toxins. Nathan added, our immune systems are constantly battling thousands of pathogens. Earth's microbial diversity means humans are exposed to countless bacteria and viruses from birth. Those who survived passed on their immunities. Olivia stepped forward. And then there's our psychological adaptation. Humans are curious by nature. We see dangers as challenges to overcome, not just threats to avoid. The council chamber fell silent as the aliens processed this information. Finally, a representative from the Shindari, a species known for their analytical minds, spoke. If your natural environment is so challenging, why didn't humans evolve natural armor like the Valkyrans? Kyle smiled. We took a different evolutionary path. Instead of physical defenses, we developed larger brains. We created tools, weapons, and eventually technology to overcome our physical limitations. And cooperation, Frank added. Humans formed social groups for protection and to share resources. We learned to work together to survive. The head counselor turned to Captain Zorvak. Captain, as a representative of the only other recognized Deathworld species, what is your assessment of these humans? Zorvak stood tall, his scales gleaming under the chamber lights. When we first encountered the humans, I was skeptical. They appeared weak, lacking the natural defenses that my species evolved. But I have seen them function in conditions that would challenge even Valkyrans. Their endurance exceeds ours. Their adaptability is remarkable. And they possess a trait that my people often lack. They instinctively risk their own safety to help others, even aliens they've just met. Dr. Selnar activated a new display. We've prepared a comparison of human and Valkyran physical capabilities. Valkyrans have superior strength and natural armor. Humans have greater endurance, faster healing, and a remarkable ability to function despite injury. A council member asked, what about your species' psychological profile? Deathworld species are often aggressive and territorial. Frank thought carefully before answering. Humans can be both aggressive and cooperative. Our history includes countless wars, but also great acts of compassion and sacrifice. The harsh conditions of Earth taught us to compete for resources, but also to work together to survive. This duality defines us. Patricia activated a historical timeline of Earth. Our civilization has gone through periods of conflict and peace. We've developed art, music, and literature alongside weapons and defenses. We've explored our world and now look to the stars not just for conquest, but for discovery and connection. The Shindari representative asked, if your species evolved on such a challenging world, why haven't humans conquered more of your local space? The Valkyrans had established a significant presence in their sector within a century of achieving space travel. Olivia stepped forward. We've focused much of our energy on solving problems on our own world. Earth still presents challenges. Environmental changes, resource management, political divisions. We wanted to create a stable, unified presence before expanding too far, Frank added. And our approach to space exploration has been cautious. We wanted to learn about the galaxy before establishing a large presence. Meeting the coalition has accelerated our plans. The head counselor nodded thoughtfully. We would like to see a practical demonstration of human capabilities. Our scientists have prepared a series of tests to verify your claims about Earth's classification. We would be happy to comply, Frank agreed. Over the next several days, the human crew participated in various tests. They demonstrated their ability to function in high-gravity environments, their tolerance for temperature extremes, and their resistance to various toxins. Kyle showed impressive strength for his size, while Patricia demonstrated human flexibility and balance. Nathan allowed medical scans that confirmed humans' unusual healing capabilities. Olivia worked with coalition engineers, showing how human innovation often found solutions that the aliens had overlooked. Most impressive to the coalition, scientists was the humans' adaptability. When faced with new challenges, They quickly developed strategies to overcome them, sometimes in ways the aliens found surprising or even illogical at first. By the end of the testing period, the Coalition had confirmed Earth's classification as a Category 12 death world. The implications were significant. Throughout Coalition history, planetary classification had determined a species' status and privileges. The Valkyran's unique position was now shared with humans. Captain Zorvak found Frank in an observation lounge, looking out at the stars. "Your people have impressed the Coalition," Zorvak said. "They speak of alliance rather than merely acceptance." Frank nodded. "Humans value good partnerships. We've learned that cooperation often achieves more than competition." "The Valkyran Empire has never had an equal partner before," Zorvak admitted. "This will be a significant adjustment for my people." "For humans too," Frank replied. "But if two Deathworld species can't figure out how to work together, what hope is there for the rest of the galaxy?" As they looked out at the stars, both leaders knew the galaxy had changed forever. 6 months after Earth was officially recognized as a death world, the galaxy had changed dramatically. Human diplomats spread throughout Coalition space, establishing relations with dozens of species. Earth became a member of the Galactic Coalition, with special status joining the Valkyrans as the only Category 10+ death world species. Frank Miller, now promoted to commander, stood on the bridge of a new ship. The vessel was called Alliance, the first joint Valkyran-human military project. Its design combined Valkyran durability with human innovation. Captain Zorvak served as co-commander, an arrangement that would have been unthinkable just months ago. "Status report," Frank called out. Olivia Martinez, now chief engineer for the Alliance, responded from her station. "All systems functioning at optimal capacity, Commander. The new reactor design is performing 30% above expectations." Kyle Johnson, heading the security division, added, "Defense systems ready. The combined shield technology is fully operational." Patricia White, who had been appointed science officer, looked up from her console. "Long-range sensors are picking up unusual activity at the edge of Coalition space, Sector 87. Zorvak and Frank exchanged glances. Reports had been coming in for weeks about strange occurrences in that region. Ships disappearing, communications disrupted. The Coalition Council had asked the Alliance to investigate. "Set course for Sector 87, maximum speed," Zorvak ordered. The bridge crew, a mix of humans and Valkyrans, worked together seamlessly. As they approached the sector, Patricia's sensors detected something alarming. Multiple ships detected. Design unknown. "They're attacking a Coalition outpost." The main screen showed dozens of insect-like vessels swarming around a small space station. The attacking ships moved with strange coordination, almost like a single organism rather than individual vessels. "Open a channel," Frank ordered. "Unknown vessels, this is Commander Frank Miller of the Coalition Ship Alliance. Cease your attack immediately." No response came. Instead, 5 enemy ships broke away from the attack and headed straight for the Alliance. "Evasive maneuvers," Zorvak commanded. "Prepare defensive systems but hold fire until we know more." The Alliance moved with surprising agility for its size, avoiding the initial attack. The enemy ships circled back, firing strange energy weapons that rippled across the Alliance's shields. "Shields holding at 92%, Kyle reported. Their weapons technology is advanced." More enemy ships joined the attack. Their movements were eerily coordinated, suggesting some kind of hive mind. Nathan Brown, who had become the ship's chief medical officer, spoke up from his station. "I'm detecting unusual biological readings from those ships. They appear to be partly organic." "A biomechanical species?" Patricia wondered. "Fascinating." "Less fascination, more focus on survival," Zorvak growled as another volley hit their shields. Frank studied the attack pattern. "They move like insects protecting a nest. Target the ship in the center of their formation. That might be their command vessel." The Alliance fired its main weapons, striking the central ship. The effect was immediate. The enemy formation faltered momentarily before regrouping. "Direct hit, but minimal damage," Kyle reported. "Their hulls are highly resistant. The battle continued for 20 minutes with neither side gaining a clear advantage. The Alliance's shields weakened with each hit, while the enemy ships seemed to adapt to their attack patterns. "We need a new approach," Frank said. "Patricia, analyze their movements. Find a pattern we can exploit." Patricia worked quickly, running the battle data through the ship's computers. "There is a pattern. They communicate through some kind of biological signaling. If we could disrupt it..." Nathan joined her at the science station. "Similar to Earth insects, they might be using pheromones or electromagnetic signals." "Can we generate a countersignal?" Frank asked. Patricia and Nathan exchanged looks. "Theoretically, yes, we could modify our communication array to emit a disruption pulse." "Do it," Zorvak ordered. As Olivia and Patricia worked to reconfigure the systems, the enemy ships pressed their attack. The Alliance's shields dropped to 40%. "Hurry," Frank urged. "We can't take much more of this." "Ready," Patricia announced. Emitting disruption pulse now. A wave of energy spread from the Alliance. The effect on the enemy ships was dramatic. Their perfect formation dissolved into chaos as ships collided with each other or fired at empty space. "It's working," Kyle exclaimed. "Their coordination is breaking down." "Now's our chance," Zorvak said. "Target their propulsion systems." The Alliance fired precisely, disabling several enemy vessels. The remaining ships retreated, disappearing into deep space. "Track them," Frank ordered. "We need to know where they're going." Patricia monitored the sensors. "They're heading to the Novari system. There's nothing there except an uninhabited planet." Frank and Zorvak decided to follow at a safe distance. When they reached the Novari system, they found something unexpected. The planet wasn't uninhabited. After all, it was a massive hive world, home to thousands of the insect-like ships. "The Nexus Horde," Zorvak whispered. "They're not a myth after all. Ancient Valkyran stories told of a hive mind species that consumed entire worlds. Most considered it a legend, but the evidence was now right in front of them. "We need to report this to the Coalition immediately," Frank said. "This threat could affect the entire galaxy." Back at Coalition headquarters, the Council received their report with grave concern. Intelligence confirmed the Horde had already conquered 3 systems beyond Coalition space. "This is a threat unlike any we've faced," the head counselor said. "The Horde shares a single consciousness. They assimilate rather than negotiate." In the weeks that followed, the Coalition prepared for war. The Valkyrans contributed their military might, while humans offered strategic innovations. Together they developed new tactics to counter the Horde's hive mind advantage. The first major battle took place at the edge of Coalition space. Traditional military formations proved ineffective against the Horde's swarm tactics. Then Frank introduced something new: guerrilla warfare, a concept alien to the Coalition military. "Don't try to match their numbers," he explained to the War Council. "Small independent strike teams can disrupt their coordination, hit and run, be unpredictable." The strategy worked. Coalition forces began winning skirmishes against the numerically superior Horde. Later, Nathan and Patricia made another breakthrough. By studying captured Horde drones, they discovered a biological weakness. The hive connection could be disrupted by a specific compound similar to Earth insect repellents. "We don't need to destroy them," Nathan explained. "Just break their connection to the hive mind." The final battle took place at the Horde's main world. The Alliance led a fleet of Coalition ships. Instead of weapons of mass destruction, they deployed Nathan's compound, disrupting the hive mind connection across the planet. As the Horde drones regained individual consciousness, Frank opened communication channels. "You don't have to fight anymore. You can exist as individuals, not slaves to the hive." It took months of negotiation, but eventually a peace treaty was established. The former Horde members, now calling themselves the Free Novari, began the difficult process of developing individual identities. 1 year after first contact, humans and Valkyrans stood together at a ceremony on Earth. Representatives from all Coalition species attended as a monument was unveiled at the site where Frank's crew had been rescued by Captain Zorvak's ship. The simple stone marker bore an inscription in multiple languages. From different worlds, forged by different fires, united by common strength. Zorvak stood beside Frank, looking at the monument. Your people have changed the galaxy, Frank Miller. The Valkyrans thought we were special because we survived a harsh world. The humans showed us that true strength comes not just from surviving hardship, but from helping others survive it too. Frank smiled. That's the greatest lesson of Earth. In a world that tries to kill you every day, you learn that cooperation often works better than competition. As they looked up at the stars, now filled with possibilities rather than threats, both Deathworlders knew this was just the beginning.